Hi guys, we've been learning a lot about English pronunciation, and today we are going to talk a little bit about our own learning process. Okay, we are going to talk how to sound American or British. As you have learned, you have started to become aware of all your English habits. You start becoming, sometimes it becomes terribly frustrated because it feels impossible to take what you are learning about pronunciation and apply to actual real conversations that you are having. And I was wondering here in this video, we are going through this process and that takes you from knowing something to being able to do it regularly without even having to think about it. So let's think about our childhood, or maybe think about a baby. Even if you don't have kids, no problem, but you were a kid, and some people that you can observe babies. I mean, when you raise a kid, you notice a lot of little things, okay? Such as, let me think about my teaching, my adult students and accent training compared to potty training. Potty training. One of the things that is so different about pronunciation things is that it's different for most of the learning we do as adults. That's it. When you were learning English, you were likely learning it as knowledge of the mind, and which is what almost all the learning we do as older children and adult is. At least being a teacher, I have noticed that. So I would like to take this comparison. When we are learning to do things, new things, to know, like memorizing vocabulary or an English verb, conjugations, and what do we things that you write and you talk about while learning out. So training in a sport, for example, or a musical instrument or singing, it's a lot more like working on your accent than studying English is. I don't know if I'm making myself clear, but some people think I am an English teacher. Well, I am, but I'm not. I can correct them, I'm not. That's not how I think about myself at all. I am primarily an accent trainer. I try to figure out how to help students understand and change their habits in spoken language, okay? And first of all, we are going to learn or to be aware of the sounds that you cannot see, you cannot feel. You can feel a sound, but you cannot touch it, for example, you cannot smell. So in order to realize you are or to change your spoken language, you have to perceive how you have to perceive for example, you are making a mistake. It doesn't help if your teacher corrects you immediately. How is it going to work in a real situation? Right? I think we have discussed a lot about that in during our courses. Okay, how can we change our spoken language and feel more comfortable, more confident while speaking English, right? In our case. Um, a while ago, I was reading a book about raising a kid that really reminded me of different phases of learning. I Let me see if I remember the book. It's about it's about potty training. I decided to compare our instead of taking for example sports or Pilates. Uh, I thought it's easier for us if you think about how a child develops skills in order to go to the toilet, which is potty training. Okay, how peeing and pooping right in the right place, ask for it. So I talked to myself. Yes, we can compare the same sequence all the time with my adult students. Let's make paraphrase this book or this thought about potty training with our learning process. Talking about the book, I don't remember the author of the book, but you know what the book was about? It was about potty training. That's right. The kid or the baby was stunning, and he was learning something totally new about his body, right? And I had to try to understand his experience to help and guide me through it. The book said this: the first phase is diapers. Phase number 1, diapers. From newborn, when the baby is born, until it starts to become something that he notices or we start talking about it, let's call phase number 1 compared to the book. Think of a newborn, total unawareness about something like peeing, okay? And this is phase 1. As I said, as he moves out of diapers, he has to start noticing something about his body. Do you agree with that? That he hadn't paid attention to it. So here we go to phase number 2. That isn't just like my adult students, like you, working on their accent and being easily understood when speaking, right? Because we have ways of making you feel this and put into words these sounds. But follow me, okay? Stick with me, and we are going to. It's a thought that is coming. So you are starting to notice something about your body, the way that you sound, okay? And what happens then? You hadn't necessarily paid attention to before, or even known how to pay attention to. So in that book I mentioned, they talk about how first stunning, the baby called stunning, will notice after he has peed. Okay, so that was phase number 2. He will be able to say, I peed, mommy, I peed, all right? So of course that's disappointing if your goal is not to have your kid pee in his pants, right? He or she. So it's necessary to process this step. And for the kid, for the baby, it's for a 2-year-old, for example, this is not a habit yet. So I would like you to compare our take notes. Don't forget to take notes. It's not a habit yet, right? This baby or he or she will understand when the baby or the kid arrives. This is phase 2, right? and the baby, I'm talking about the book and the babies and the kid or the baby, he is no longer has total unawareness. He now has awareness that something has happened. Okay, what happened? He peed, right? So here we go to phase number 3. Phase number 3 is being able to tell when he's peeing and it's actually happening, right? So phase 2 is past. You notice it it happened, it's past already. So phase 3 is present, right? You notice as you do it. Follow me? Phase 4, okay, you may have been able to guess it's future, right? So you think about it just before it happens. This is the phase he's now thankfully where he can say, I'm going to pee, or I need to pee. Mommy, I'm going to pee, or I need to pee, or the caregiver. I do remember that. As you know, I have 3 kids. My youngest one is 18 already. She's studying at the university. So phase number 4, going back to our comparison. That's a lot easier to deal with them. I peed in the past, right? Or I am peeing, right? When it's happening at the moment you are speaking. So, or the baby is speaking. So then comes, and there is phase number 5. That's the phase where he doesn't tell us. It is just part of normal life, and he or she goes to the bathroom when he or she needs it to, okay? It comes automatically. Let's talk about these phases with changing pronunciation habits. So let's move to our pronunciation. Phase number 1. Phase number 1 is total unawareness. You, of course, you can listen, but some, as we compared in our classes, we're using pronunciation chart, okay, international pronunciation chart. There are many sounds in English that we don't have in Portuguese, right? And vice versa. So when you are unaware of it, you cannot change it, because only when you are conscious, you are aware of it, you perceive it, you can change it. You've never known about the sounds of American or British English, what you were doing wrong, because it's not that you, again, it's not that you can't listen, you are not aware, okay? So awareness, phase number 1. You've learned English, but you've never specifically studied pronunciation. It's not your case, right? For the 2 of you who are listening to me. So when you first start studying, you learn all kinds of new things. And what happens then, it's like exactly how vowel sounds that it's not in your language, like in Portuguese or the E language, vowel sound, okay, of long E and short E, it's over there. It's a little bit far away. I'm not used to this stuff, okay, this new technology. I'm used to technology, but it's my first trial here in this Corona equipment, Corona. So let's move back to our comparison. So that's something you learn with the mind, and that's very satisfying, right? You could describe it and teach it to someone else, right? Remember that in our report, daily report, our classes report. As I said, is the kind of learning most of us do as adults. Are you comparing it to potty training? So it's moving from phase 1 to phase 2, from total unawareness to understanding. Are you following me? Yeah. What happens then? But there are still 3 more transitions to make. Okay? Think about it. Before making something a habit, this is where many of my students get frustrated. And I know it because I used to get frustrated too, right? I am Brazilian and I pay more attention than a native speaker. If I have thinking Portuguese, as we compared remember in our first classes, it doesn't mean that if you know the language or if you are aware of the language, it doesn't mean that you can teach to them. Okay, let's move to phase number 2. The students usually are stuck in phase number 2, right? And that is how you are doing it wrong, because you learned about it. Let me explain it better. You notice it, but you notice you are still constantly doing it or pronunciating it in the wrong way in conversation. That sucks, right? So you can't think of what to say and pronunciation at the same time. Do you agree with me? I know it happens. You are stuck in the past phase, right? You cannot do this when you are learning. You cannot do phase number 1 and phase number 2 at the same time. Okay, so you're stuck at it. So you notice it after you have already made a mistake. All right, then comes that you can be very frustrating. This is where some people want to give up. Right? It's their habit and they don't see how they can ever change it. And how they ever think of 2 things at once. How do you do that? Right? But you can get all the way to phase 5, right? How is that? I always try to tell my students this is actually progress. When you notice you are making a mistake, when you yourself notice you are making a mistake, it means you have learned. You have gone from not knowing something to knowing at all. Don't give up so early in your journey, right? Please don't give up in your journey. For example, let's say you are working on getting the as in let's say as in butter vowel to sound really natural and let's say American. Let's take American butter. Okay. So what was I was in phase 2. This one can be tough, difficult, because it depends on a lot of placement too, right? You've learned how it's made, how to make the sound, and how it's different from other sounds, right? Correct. You've listened to a lot of minimal pairs, like sheep and sheep, right? And now you can hear as its own sound. So you left phase 1 for phase 2, correct? This is you have the awareness. Are you following me? I hope so. If you don't, you take notes and you ask me, okay? And you can practice it over and over. But when you are in a conversation thinking about what to say, you find you still say it wrong. What happens then? yeah. Don't get frustrated. You notice it after it comes out of your mouth, right? And it feels really disappointing, right? I know that. It's really disappointing. But this is, may I say, don't quit. Most of the students quit when they want to quit at this phase number 2, when they are aware, but they still cannot produce, right? So you are aware that you want to pee, like think about the baby, the pot training, but you peed in your pants, okay? Instead of telling your mom or whoever is with you there, taking care of you, you say, you notice you're peeing. Think about a baby, okay? Imagine a baby peeing in his or her panties or pants, so it's done, past. So you've started training the sound, comparing to pronunciation, doing the repetitions to retrain your muscles. Remember, we studied the muscles of your mouth. How do you make a bridge in your practice time to real speaking in real conversation? How that could we work on that? It's actually simple, let me tell you. Just more training. By noticing that you are doing wrong, you can focus on your practice more, okay? If there are many or if there are any words that consistently don't feel right, write them down. You can use this, okay? I suggest you can use this, right? With colors, write them down. It's a way of learning, okay? Make sure that that's one of the words you are training 10, 20 or more times a day, okay? Please do it. And you just need more repetitions of doing it right to change the habit. So think about potty training, Pilates training, how you started learning Pilates, swimming, driving, anything you can compare. A great tool can be to record yourself. Remember, you were ashamed of recording your own voices, okay? But it's a great tool. Many people now have phones that can record audio, right? So smartphones are... So record a conversation you have at some point during the day. Listen to it later. Now, you have increased your knowledge. You will be able to be your own teacher. So that's the purpose of our class. You'll be able to notice things that aren't right on your own, because I have my own perspective. You have your own perspective. So remember, in our first classes, I told you that a singer, an opera singer has, I don't know how it's called, but the singer listens to him or herself, okay? It's very important to listen to yourself. So when you listen to yourself, you can notice what is going wrong with this pronunciation or accent. So you'll be able to notice things that aren't right, and you can write them down and work with them over and over. Okay, that's another suggestion. This is great if there are certain words you are using a lot for work or in your daily life. Take take the words or phrases that intimidate you the most and practice them. Practice them 20 or more times, several times throughout the day. Is that the deal? So the repetition is necessary, but it will only take a few minutes, okay? Practice it slowly at a regular pace. Imitate a native speaker by going to, there is a site called Forvo, forvo.com, or youglish.com, youglisg.com. I can write you afterwards to hear many samples. That's a good idea. It just came to my mind. Yeah, there are many interesting sites today. This is how you bridge the gap between practicing and real conversation, okay? It is simply more focused practice on the actual words that you will use in your daily life. And as you train more and more, you go through the same phases that Stoney. Remember the book I told you that about a potty training at the beginning of this video? So the same phases that Stoney went through the potty training. So you go from noticing your mistake, number one, phase one. After you've made it, it's phase two. Do you agree with me? To phase number three, where as you start to say the word, to say the word in your brain gets triggered. And you remember how you want to try to say it. Don't be afraid to repeat your word with a better pronunciation. Don't be, okay? As you do more training, you'll be able to think the right pronunciation. Just as your brain has come up with the word and you want to say it. And with more training and more time, you will no longer even think about it. That comes automatically, like exercise, like Pilates, like swimming, driving, any other, or potty training. Your confidence on a particular word or sound will be that high. Okay? So you won't need to think about it. You won't notice it. It's no longer a problem for you. There is some noise here, but I hope you are not listening. Okay? So it can be frustrating because the first thing that happens after you learn something, it is realizing how often you do it wrong and how hard it is to change a habit. It's very hard to change a habit. I know it. I have many of them. That's true. And the more you learn about pronunciation, the more habits you want to change, but you can change them. It's possible. And don't let the work that is necessary turn you off. Please don't. You can do it. I've seen hundreds of students change their habits through regular training, repetition, and awareness. Awareness is the starting point, and a little hard work, and the payoff is so big, so huge. So if you get frustrated at the beginning, you will never move on to the next phase. If you quit, you will never move on, okay? If you take it as a tool of for learning and you keep training hard, you get there. You get there. You get to where you want to be. What are some of your best tips for how you have worked on your accent in our pronunciation classes and made a real change? This is a topic for tomorrow's class. think about it. I think this video is becoming long, but and or another question I would like you to think about it's for how have you stayed motivated? What kept you pursuing this dream of being a good English speaker, or a confident one at least? Okay, maybe there is a particular word that you couldn't say correctly, and now you say without effort, any effort. Think about that too. Share the tips or tricks that you use practicing and improving in the comments for next class. Write down some notes to bring me. Okay. What else can I think about for tomorrow's class? What is the major victory you have had while studying English? That's another question. Share these things in the comments tomorrow, okay? And I would like to learn from you and feel motivated by you. So on your successes, and don't forget, keep working. You can't change a habit overnight. It does take more time and dedication, but it's worth it, and you can do it. You can do it. I did. You can do it, right? I believe in you. I do. And that's it. And thanks so much for using Lilian's pronunciation classes. See you tomorrow. Okay? Bye.